Thanks for joining us, everyone, across the world and at the Singapore Fintech Festival. I'm Dan Gay, Chief Marketing Officer of BlockCerts Blockchain, and we have a very exciting guest and panel here with LenderKey. We would like to welcome everyone who's coming to us from wherever you're coming to us from, whether it's morning, night, or evening. There are over 100,000 people that are streaming that are coming through this, and we're very excited to be talking to LenderKey here. Our main panelist guest is a partner at LenderKey, and Hugo Dos Reis is with us here. And welcome this afternoon, your afternoon, Hugo.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon, morning, and evening to everybody out there.
Yeah, great. And then we have Tiffany Johnston, who's our Chief of Staff at BlockCerts Blockchain.
Hi, Dan. Good afternoon, morning, evening.
Yeah, good afternoon. And then we have Mr. Tim Vasco, who is our Chief Executive Officer, founder, our Chief Architect of BlockCerts Blockchain. Good afternoon, Tim.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Hugo and Tiffany and everybody. We're really excited to go through LenderKey, a project near and dear to my heart. And we've been working hard to make this an incredible reality. So Hugo, I'm super excited to be here with you and going through this and hearing about LenderKey and how we're going to change the multi-trillion dollar mortgage world. I think the mortgage banking industry is the largest lending industry in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. So let's just jump right in. Tell us about LenderKey and what the vision is and what we're doing with this incredible project.
Yeah, let's do it. First of all, again, thank you guys for having us at this amazing international conference. There's so many really great speakers here and so much innovation. So we're really honored to be a part of this. But getting right into it, I mean, I'm really excited to present LenderKey to this audience because we're at a tipping point in the mortgage industry of old versus new. And, the current processes and policies and client experience just haven't changed for quite a long time. And LenderKey represents the future of of elevating that mortgage experience and really moving this industry into the modern world. So just getting into the next slide here. For us, the problem in the mortgage industry down to its root core is that mortgages have simply changed. But there continues to be systems and processes in use that maintain this outdated reality. I'm speaking from a Canadian perspective, but I know that our challenges are also very common in other countries around the world. Now, there's several problems within the mortgage industry, but the three that we feel impact us the most within the lending process are overall just inefficiencies, more complex lending policies and underwriting rules, and fraud. So the first one here is just inefficiency. Now, this graph represents the typical mortgage application journey from a mortgage professional perspective. The thing is pretty much a mess, but it is the various stages that a file will have to flow through throughout the process. Now, if you look at the initial journey of a file, it starts with clients inputting data and providing documents. It could be online, it could be a mortgage application, or it could be a physical application. We still see some of these clients sending over faxes even today. Now, for a mortgage professional or a lender, this information then needs to be re-inputted on a completely different system and then reviewed. And very often, we'll need to go back to the client and say, hey, you disclosed a lender decision. And, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but some banks are still operating with systems that are decades old that require a lot of human manual data entry, despite all the technology we have access to. And the challenge here is that these systems, they just don't communicate with one another. The system that a client might be using, or a mortgage professional, or a realtor, or a bank, they just don't speak to one another because they weren't built for the current environment. So instead of an overhaul of the process, most lenders choose to create these patch or custom technology solutions to adapt some of these old systems instead of a complete overhaul and a much more modern approach. Now, next, we've got complex underwriting. Mortgages have just gotten more complicated than before. Less than 10 years ago, you could walk into a bank with being self-employed with a letter of employment that you wrote yourself and walk out with a mortgage approval. That was just the reality 10 years ago. But now there's much more due diligence and documentation required to get an approval. And we think that the general customer, they just don't realize this, and they typically expect the process to be straightforward. I mean, again, if I could order a sandwich on my phone instantly, or if I could restock toilet paper with an app and get delivery the next day, why aren't mortgage applications so easy and straightforward to use? And in my opinion, the industry has done a very good job telling customers that you can complete a simple online mortgage application or a pre-approval in just minutes. But the reality is there's no real in-depth review being done here, which essentially creates a poor client experience when they later realize that, hey, the mortgage amount that the system told me I could get, it just doesn't work. There's a lot more layers to mortgage underwriting these days than previous. And even things like income verification and even the source of your down payment for a purchase have become much more complicated, which again, create that poor client experience if it's not being reviewed properly. It really just strips the client of the confidence needed to go out and purchase a home. Moving on to the next slide, we've got fraud. So, this is not something that gets talked about very much, but we all know is a very big reality in this business. Just look at the 2008 credit crisis in the US as a large scale example. Fraud happens. Documents are altered. We all know there's teams and full-on businesses out there that will create any type of document for clients for a fee just to get a mortgage done. This is a reality, and with the current technology available, can be mitigated and completely eliminated. Moving on to the next slide. Now, LenderKey looks to address all these problems and more. LenderKey for us is a mortgage mapping tool, the first of its kind in this industry, to help guide clients through a smarter mortgage journey. By collecting documents from source and using BlockCerts Blockchain technology, LenderKey is able to more accurately assess a client's financial position while providing a collaborative platform for their clients, their mortgage professional, and a real estate agent. Moving on to the next slide. Some key features of LenderKey are include the first one here, we've got upload documents. So LenderKey will allow clients to upload documents through our proprietary blockchain technology. This will ensure documents are completely secure. LenderKey can pull and analyze bank statements and understand deposits, understand withdrawals, and much more with a lot more precision than current technology. We can access CRA or other tax documents, credit reports, property information reports, among many others, can be accessed from the source. And this information is then uploaded and will automatically start populating a mortgage application, saving tons of times, not only on the client side, but with the mortgage professional and ultimately the lender as well. Now, the second item here is data processing. LenderKey will take all this information that's been uploaded, and it'll start to automatically underwrite the data based on thousands of criteria that have been programmed into the platform. Ultimately, it will create what we call a QCG, or a quality control gauge score, which is completely new to the industry, and we hope it will really set the standard for all mortgage applications, much in the same way that credit scores are important when assessing credit files. The QCG score will tell its user how likely the client will be able to obtain their desired financing. The higher the QCG score, the more likely they'll be able to secure financing. And I've got a little bit more on the QCG in the next slide. But the last item here is the communication. So the LenderKey platform allows its users to collaborate, share information and updates all live and all instantaneously. Clients and mortgage professionals, for example, can share video, review documents, and instantaneously sign them while on a call together. If realtors want to know the status of a file for a possible offer, they can log in, check the status of the client file, and understand exactly what the client qualifies for. And if they want to make an offer on a different property that maybe has a different purchase price, they can input that property and will automatically assess the likelihood of the client being able to qualify for that property. Essentially by providing a lot more collaboration between all parties, we're able to completely elevate the whole experience like never before. This is essentially LenderKey in a nutshell. Now, this QCG slide, I do want to expand a little bit further because the QCG score is something completely new to this industry. Essentially, we've taken all the experience that we have As mortgage brokers with billions of dollars of mortgage volume funded and years of experience as one of Canada's top teams and built-in underwriting guidelines for all lender scenarios to create a QCG score. As information and documents are uploaded, LenderKey will automatically update and underwrite based on the inputs to provide instant feedback and a QCG score to the user to determine how strong this file is. For example, if a client updates a pay stub along with a letter of employment, a QCG score is created. But if that same client then adds maybe a 2-year tax history, the QCG score will be improved to indicate how much stronger that data is in terms of for a lender to assess the file. Now, once a client has that score, that QCG score, they're completely aware of their mortgage options and can be much more empowered as a home buyer. For lenders, this QCG score is able to much more accurately assess the risk profile of a client beyond a typical credit score, which in reality doesn't tell anywhere near the full picture. So just because you've got an excellent credit score doesn't mean you're going to get a mortgage if your income is zero or very small, which is what QCG is able to fill in the gap on. Now, the next slide is the blockchain slide. So one of the main concerns with online users is security. So we've gone above and beyond to ensure users' data is protected with our blockchain technology powered by BlockCerts. BlockCerts Blockchain is really the engine behind the scenes of LenderKey, and Tim and his international team have put in over 2 million human hours into building this platform, which provides the security needed to ensure that information is completely protected, cryptographically signed, and tamper-free. And it's already in use by quite a few organizations, some of which are presenting at this year's conference and noted below.
And you know, Hugh, I thought I'd jump in here quick and say just a word about that, because what's exciting to me is combining the knowledge and the need, as you've described, with the blockchain technology. I mean, at the end of the day, really, even a few years ago, this may not have even been possible. But now what we can do is we can create this chain of custody, if you will, and this de-risk the entire process while improving the experience. So you're really doing two things here. You're taking the reality of what people have to live with, as you've just described, whether you're a banker, a broker, or a buyer, and you've streamlined that into something that's incredibly efficient. And by de-risking it and removing that fraud, aren't you also really making the industry more effective, lowering rates, all the kinds of things that banks and lenders have to build in because of these inefficiencies? I mean, costs go down at the end of the day, right? Yeah,
that's a great point. You're right.
So
and how many files drop out? You know, at the end of the day, how many files drop out because of inefficiencies or clients becoming frustrated or one point in the process?
That's a good point. How many actually close or how many are lost, Hugo?
In terms of an industry standard, I think as an industry standard, in terms of creating a mortgage application with one lender going all the way to the finish line and funding with that same lender, I believe is under 15%. Closer to maybe 10%.
Wow.
You know, so think about all that inefficiency in terms of I went in and I applied with a lender, maybe missing a couple information, maybe I never went ahead with that lender and I decided to go with a different lender. You know, just so much inefficiency, which again, like you made a good point here. If we improve that efficiency, reduce risk, we would, all of us would benefit. We would see lower rates, potentially even newer products being developed for people that just don't normally qualify, which again is something that we're looking to do with this.
Well, and in addition to that, you know, you hear all the time about, will I ever be able to buy a home, right? And now with building this in, and I know that we're building in machine learning, we're building in automation, we're building in these things that integrate behind QCG and these new models, the ability to truly qualify somebody. And economically, things are changing, obviously, so much that this whole idea of the gig economy, somebody who's making money but doesn't have a traditional job, right?
That's I was going to comment on that. The banks haven't figured. I was going to say, Tim, the banks haven't really figured that out. It's kind of like when Airbnb was introduced. They're like, well, is this a rental property? What are we doing with this? How do we verify rental income, right? And same thing with the gig economy. You could be driving an Uber or whatever it is, earning real income, but you're treated almost as if, you know, the income is not treated the same as someone who's salary employed. And that's where I think there's a huge, you know, backwards.
And I think, you know, on that point, Hugo, which is really incredible to me, is now we're in a world, Bill Gates just came out and said 50% of all of the businesses that exist today will be gone. 50%. So think about that. Even if I did have a job and it was a good paying job and I was completely capable of qualifying for a mortgage a year ago, 6 months ago, all of a sudden, my company may not even be around anymore. And it could be a company that was around forever, like an airline, right? A hotel chain, something like that, that had a good, stable business that no longer even exists or is viable. So I think that LenderKey at this point is at a perfect point, not only for that experience, but for where the economy is. Like, this is a tool and a function that is needed by so many professionals, but also by these buyers who are going to go out and create new businesses, new ways of making income. And one of your partners, Chris, told me, you know, if you're self-employed today, maybe you're a better credit risk than if you're a salaried employee.
Yeah, I agree. I think the way we underwrite and approach the review of a file, it's not so cookie cutter anymore. It's not, I have a salary and I can verify exactly your income. Now there's a lot more people are self-employed than ever before. And if we're taking those old rules and applying it to our modern underwriting guidelines, there's a lot of people who will continue to have challenges getting mortgages and will likely have to pay a little bit more money to get that same mortgage, even though their risk is actually lower. But we haven't really done anything to address that risk. We're continuing to rely on this credit score, which again just tells you the likelihood of you defaulting, but doesn't tell you if you can actually afford this.
Exactly. So Hugo, that's pretty interesting and incredible about the way gig workers and other markets might adapt and need this. So that is part of the LenderKey client experience, really, is being able to give people, not only people, that information right up front. Hey, I'm going down the right track with QCG and things like that, but also avoiding all this work that's done for only maybe 15% of closes. Like, you're able to now place this person's experience with that lender in and that's truly what client experience is about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I think again, that's just where it's been lacking in our industry is, you know, we're trying to fit everyone into a square box, and there's so many individuals that just don't fit that square box, and unfortunately their solutions are not being addressed. So it can create a lot of frustration, and a lot of individuals that should be qualified for mortgage just aren't. So yeah, on this particular end of the slide deck, what we want to do, just given the time we have, we want to give you a very small glimpse of what a client experience may look like throughout the lender experience, the LenderKey platform. So initially they might get an email or a text from their realtor partner, you know, perhaps, hey Tim, you know, I know you're shopping for a home. Let me get you set up with LenderKey. Let's just figure out roughly what you can qualify for, which should always be the first step in a home buying experience. So they get this email alert, and then we move on. I think we just want to slide ahead there.
Yeah.
There we go. You know, we'll move on. The client will create their LenderKey account, just like with anything else. And then moving into the vault, the third next slide here. So information is then stored in what we call our vault. The information is completely secure, kind of like a wallet. All the information and documentation the client needs and would like to share is available here. But the client can decide what document is shared with the lender. The wallet or the vault is built on the blockchain, so no more online drives, which, as we know, can be prone to data breaches, which is a very popular way for clients to provide documents. Is I've uploaded it to one of these cloud or online drives. This is a much more effective and secure way to share that information. Now, next, the client is then able to take a selfie of themselves and upload a corresponding piece of ID. And using facial recognition software, we can link that selfie with that ID to ensure that the person that is completing this file is the one that should be completing this file. Again, we're trying to avoid fraud, but not only that, we're also able to take all that information, automatically start populating and start building a mortgage application. So we're already eliminating what's your full name, legal name, birthday. That's already built into the application just through this step here, which also serves as a way to mitigate risk as well. And now the interesting thing about the mortgage applications is it's very intuitive. So unlike a lot of the applications that currently exist where they're made for everybody, as you start completing the mortgage application, if you tell the system that you're self-employed, the system will adapt and ask you questions because you're self-employed. If you tell the system that you have multiple properties, the system will adapt and start asking you about the specific properties. So it's almost like you're having a human interaction, and the questions, by you answering a certain way, you'll be counteract with questions to make sure that we're taking you along the right journey. So it becomes a lot less frustrating and much more accurate. And because we're pulling a lot of your information from source, a lot of it's being auto-populated. So you don't really need to spend hours to put together a mortgage application. Again, it creates a much more human experience. And I'd love to go into a little bit more detail on the client experience, but for the sake of time, I'll stop here.
Well, what we're going to do, Hugo, is we're going to have a breakout session later this week. We'll invite you back because we'll be able to answer questions and give people an interactive experience where they can ask questions as well. So if you're willing to do that, we'd love to have you because, again, to me, this is really exciting where we put machine learning frameworks and AI in here with LenderKey. And this is how all those tools you always hear about are actually being used in real life experiences, something that all of us do or hope to do at some point in time.
Yeah. For us, this is LenderKey in its current stage with much more to come in future updates. But our vision is to really bring a brand new mortgage process for the modern world using technology that's much more intuitive while mitigating risk and really just elevating the whole experience for everyone. For us, this is really the future.
Right. And Tiffany brought up a point before we started recording about, we're streaming in Asia. We know that there's a lot of cash economies out there that are quickly going from cash, which is how'd you say it, Tiffany?
Asia culture, we're a cash-based society or culturally, and versus credit history, because I live in the States in California. So a lot of time it's adversely affect us because there's a lack of credit history because the Asian culture is more of a cash basis. So that part, just adversely as far as risk-wise is less, but we're not looked at that way from a traditional valuation basis.
Right. So we're looking at things like inclusion, at creating, just like we talked about with the gig economy, and including those people who may have been excluded before. Now looking at cash-based economies and things like that, and utilizing this opportunity to bring in those kinds of metrics into QCG that allow a much bigger ecosystem. And again, that's better for everybody. Where this idea of digital and financial inclusion is so critical and so important, especially with where we're at right now when we have literally billions of people that are disenfranchised because of where they are in the world or the way that they make a living or do business. And of course, now even more so with what's happening with COVID. So super exciting stuff, Hugo, and we're really excited to be part of it. And maybe talk a little bit about your team who is doing this in addition to you.
Yeah, so I think I should really lightly touch on that. So on the industry side, myself and our partners David and Chris, LenderKey CEO, we're all mortgage industry veterans. We've been doing this for a long time, and I think unlike a lot of the tech that's out there, we bring that knowledge from the trenches. We've been doing this for over 15 years, billions of dollars in mortgages funded, and one of the top teams in the country. So we're bringing in all that experience, what works very, very well for our mortgage business, into developing tech with some of the, with Tim and your team in bringing really the best we can bring from the industry and on the tech side. And I think that's what's lacking, because I've seen a lot of the technology out there, and I think it's almost like it was built by a whole team of tech experts who don't really understand mortgage lending, because there's a lot of resources and tools available to us. And I often find they just don't speak my language, and they just don't get it. And I think that's where it's very unique.
And I learned about this, as you said, 15 years ago from Robert Girard, who was doing billions of dollars of mortgage banking business back in the States. We worked on age-old mortgage banking stuff when the whole world was about leads and how do you get more leads in the business. And we had these conversations. So it's super exciting for us to come full circle now and be working with LenderKey and bringing this to this new world of technology, and that makes all of this possible.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know,
And that one slide tells it all.
Innovation that we've got going here. I'm sorry, Dan.
Oh, I was just going to say the one slide that hits me is just the complexities of all the things in the background that happen today and how antiquated it is. And when I think about the last time I went through this process, and the notary is taking a physical picture of your driver's license, copying it, and then writing in their book, and that is supposed to be a background check. Well, I could present a fake ID, and that's not a very secure way of doing a background check versus an online digital blockchain authenticated solution that just in that piece is just streamlines the whole process.
It definitely blows my mind how manual and even old school our whole industry is, when all the other technology we have access to, and we're still, like you said, photocopying documents, clients faxing documents, scanning. There's so much opportunity here for inefficiency and fraud with this current process, essentially.
Right.
Well, we're super excited to bring this and more information on LenderKey to the marketplace. Thank you, Hugo, for taking the time. Dan and Tiffany, thanks for jumping in, and Tiffany for organizing all of this. It's a big event. We're super excited to be bringing innovation every single day to the market and streaming this in all over the world 24/7. So with that, I always like to end with stay safe, stay healthy, and stay digital with your financing, and especially your mortgage. Maybe the biggest decision you'll ever make in your life. LenderKey is going to be there to help.
Correct. Sure. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Great day, evening, morning.
All right, bye.
Bye.